1,000 Steps is one of Bonaire's most popular dive sites, though the name is a bit over-exaggerated. It really only has 67 steps. When you're carrying your gear down, it can feel like 1,000, or if you forget something, it'll feel like 2,000. But once you make it down, you immediately get into the water to find stunning coral gardens, and you might even get the chance to witness something incredible. In our case, this was a bait ball. On this specific dive, we jumped into the water, and about 65 to 100 feet away from me, I could see this shimmering, moving object. It felt like one object in the water. And as I swam up and got close to it, I realized that no, it's thousands of fish. Wait, it's tens of thousands of fish, all swimming in unison to create this kind of shimmering, swirling display. It isn't just for show, they're not doing this for fun, this is a survival technique. And they're doing this to stick together to avoid predation and to avoid predators. They stick together. A predator normally will single out a target and focus in on that one fish, and that's how they hunt. And when they all stick together and move in these unison patterns, they can get these predator fish all confused. One predator that is common in the Bonaire waters that we saw on this trip was barracuda. And barracuda are super interesting. They're predators that are always in close opportunity to feeding. Barracuda have sleek bodies and razor-sharp teeth. They patrol the edges of the bait ball, waiting for the perfect moment to strike an unsuspecting fish that swims too far away. The natural dance of prey and predators is playing out like you're watching these predators hunt these bait fish, all while you're on the edge of this giant underwater cliff with fantastic corals floating and flowing in the motion of the current. And it's just a fantastic view. Once again, you just have these moments where you're like, how am I here right now? How do I have the opportunity to be in such a crazy place, seeing something that is so short-lived? But that is something amazing that diving gives you the opportunity to go and see. That's why I think 1,000 Steps is going to stick in my mind for so long, is because it was just such an incredible dive. The opportunity to see the wildlife interactions with these incredible corals was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So one animal that absolutely leaves me in awe is sea turtles. In Bonaire, we got the opportunity to see so many green sea turtles. When you see them, you're just awestruck by the way they move, the way they float, how easily they glide through the water, and you're reminded like how ancient these animals are. They've been roaming the oceans for like 100 million years. Way, way, way longer than I can even think about. One of the craziest things that I enjoy is getting to take some videos of them eating seagrass. It's not one of their favorite foods. They probably prefer some jellyfish or something like that. They do a great job in keeping balance in the ecosystem by eating algae and seagrass and other things that can easily overtake the health of the reef and kind of outgrow and outcompete other things living in the reef as well. When they eat these seagrasses, they do a great job of helping to balance out the ecosystem in this kind of fight for algae versus coral and other things trying to live on the reef. A little fact is you'll see them grazing on all different types of dive sites around the island. There's certain sites like Salt Pier that you might be more likely to go and run into a turtle, but you have the unique opportunity on Bonaire to jump in the water and see a sea turtle on every dive that you do. Seeing these turtles up close, you're reminded like how wise they feel, and you just are like humbled by the opportunity to be a part of the ocean for a brief period. It's not crazy to understand why so many different cultures around the world use the turtle as a symbol of like wisdom and intelligence and confidence. So it's just really, really a fantastic animal to get to go see in the water. One of my all-time, actually, I will just say it, the number one dive site in Bonaire is Salt Pier. So the reason that I think Salt Pier is such an incredible dive site is not only because of how cool it is, but also the role that it plays in the island itself. It's an active salt pier that is one of Bonaire's largest economy exports. They load salt onto a large conveyor belt that sends the salt on a long track all the way out into the ocean, where it then gets loaded onto large cargo ships and sent all over the world. And you get the opportunity to dive underneath it, where the pillars that support the structure that supply the salt to the boats have over time been covered and encrusted with corals and sponges and all kinds of life that now create this huge expanse of vertical coral reef that you can go out and swim through and look from top to bottom and enjoy. You get to see all kinds of life, opportunity to see many sea turtles. When you're out there, you'll see pufferfish, flounder, and the occasional barracuda hovering. It's crazy to know that these human structures often become sanctuaries for tons of marine life because the structure provides so much room for corals and other things to grow and fill the environment. The human structure just really can take on a new life when left in the ocean. So probably the most famous dive site on the island is the Hilma Hooker. One, for its name, but two, because how amazing this dive is. This dive is located really close to the salt pier, so you can do both dives back to back if you want. This is a really, really incredible dive site, but not only because of how cool it is, but the cool story I think that goes along with it. The boat is a 236-foot long Dutch freight ship that was traveling through Bonaire in 1984 when it was stopped by authorities. And when going through checks, it was found that there were large amounts of illegal drugs being smuggled on the ship. So over the next couple years or months, it was docked and anchored off the coast of Bonaire, where it was in court proceedings trying to figure out who owns the boat, all these different things about the boat. And while all this is going on, it starts to take on water. Bonaire government decides that the best thing that they can do is relocate the boat between two coral reefs and intentionally sink it and turn it into a natural dive site, or I guess an unnatural dive site that people can now go and explore. So it's so amazing. On this dive, you drop in the water, you kind of come down, the boat starts to enter your field of view, and you just see the tip of it at the beginning. As you get closer, your jaw drops with how large it is. You think shipwreck and you think a sailboat or something, and then this thing shows up in your field of view and you're definitely awestruck. But you come in, you reach the boat, it's laying on its starboard side, and you're in about 54 feet of waters when your fins touch it, and you can stand on the side of it. Then you kind of ride up to the edge of it where the deck would be laying on its side, and you drop down towards the sand, and you'll hit about 100 feet when you get to the bottom. But you just stand along the side of it, and you see the mast sticking up, laying in the sand, laying sideways, and you get this almost weird sense of vertigo where it's one direction and feels like it should be that direction, but you're standing in the complete opposite, like a building on its side. Swimming through it is fantastic. There's fire coral everywhere. There's tarpon chasing little fish around. You get to swim through the guts of this old freight ship that at one point was carrying goods from one place to another and now has literal life living in its walls and is supporting a new type of life in its new purpose in life, which I think is really cool. This year, the Hilma Hooker celebrated its 40-year anniversary as an underwater sanctuary and dive site. It's cool to just think about, for 40 years, the ocean has been gnawing away at this iron and giving all these crazy deformities to this once pristine boat that now an eel gets to live in the porthole of, or a pufferfish gets to live in the captain's chair. It's just a fantastic way to think about a new life for the ship, and definitely worth checking out if you get the experience and opportunity to go and check out the island. One of the biggest fish that you will see while diving in Bonaire is a tarpon. Tarpon can get up to 8 feet long, they can get up to 280 pounds, and they're a massive, normally nocturnal fish that hunt little fish all over the reef. You'll often see them at Salt Pier or Hilmahooker, menacingly swimming around looking for a meal. The really cool thing about tarpon is they've learned to use divers' night lights to kind of spot reef fish for dinner. So when you jump in the waters and you're doing a night dive, it's not uncommon to have 3, 4, 5, 6 tarpon come and swim up around you, almost waiting for you to show them where their dinner is. They say that when you're diving a night dive, you don't really want to shine your light directly into these little fish's eyes because it can be like a flashbang for them. They'll be disoriented, they'll be bumping into coral for a couple minutes, and they don't really have a way to close their eyes, so they get to take the full brunt of your light. And that then becomes a super easy meal for a tarpon. When you're underwater, it's crazy because all the time you'll be shining your light around and you'll hear all these snapping noises. And you're wondering what that is, and it's actually the jaw of the tarpon snapping open and sucking in water and little bait fish and little reef fish that it just found and ate. So they're very appreciative to have you going on night dives. We're very appreciative to get to see them during night dives, but you don't really want to bully the little reef fish. A cool fact about tarpon is that while they're really big and they'll swim really close to you, you definitely don't want to touch them because they have a really thin mucus layer on the outside of their large scales. When you touch them, you'll remove that mucus layer and it can actually lead to skin and scale infections, causing injury to the fish. So they love getting close to you. They love you showing them where little food opportunities are, but you definitely want to respect them and not touch them, even though they're definitely within arm's reach. Tarpon are cool. Despite their size, they're a really graceful fish. If you're lucky, you might get to see one swim up to the surface and gulp in some freshly oxygenated water. This is a method that they use to kind of take a deep breath when they're in less oxygen-rich waters doing hunting. So at nighttime, you'll see them all over the reefs. They love getting close to divers. They're very curious about you. While they seem big enough to be a shark, they don't see you as a food item. They just see you as the delivery guy for where their next meal might be. I think tarpon are one of the coolest opportunities that you get the chance to see. They're one of the coolest fish that you can see at night when you're diving. And if you get the chance, definitely go do a night dive and watch these predators swim around. So Bonaire is not just a diver's paradise. It also has a lot to offer on the surface as well. Bonaire is a world-renowned dive site, but it also has a lot to offer on the surface as well. If you're taking a dry day, I recommend checking out the Kadushi factory, whether you're going to get some drinks, or I think you should go and check out the national park on the north side of the island. Two things that I think you can't miss when you're in Bonaire, if you're taking a dry day, is the mangrove kayaking experience and visiting the national park on the north side of the island. The national park on the north side of the island is home to Mount Branderis. It's the tallest point on the island. At 784 feet, this climb is not easy. It's less than a mile long, but gets very steep and is in direct sunlight in what feels like a desert. The north part of the island is very arid. There's not a lot of trees, not a lot of shade coverage, so you definitely want to feel like you're in good physical health before giving this hike a try. If you do feel like you're going to give it a go, it's absolutely worth it. You can be at the top in about 35 minutes if you've got good pace to you, and the views from the top are stunning. You have panoramic views of almost the entire island surrounded by beautiful blue Caribbean waters. If you look closely, you can peer down into some of the lagoons and see hundreds of flamingos enjoying themselves in the water. You get a moment at the top of the mountain when the wind is gusting and it just cools you off. It's just a really nice break to enjoy and reward yourself at the top of this mountain. So take in the views, take your time at the top. It's a stunning, stunning view and absolutely worth the hike. Bonaire is an incredible experience. When you leave the city, you immediately realize that not all the roads are created equal. There's potholes and rough terrain all over the island. Some of these roads lead directly to some of the best shore diving in the world. So the cool thing about Bonaire is you can drive your truck right up on the beach, pull out all your dive gear, suit up, and walk straight into the water. And it's crazy to know that you're right on the edge of a massive reef all over the island. You walk in the water and you're immediately greeted by tropical aquatic fish, sea turtles, and then 30 feet out is the reef right there. So there's 68 dive sites all over the island, all shore accessible diving. As long as you have a way to get around the island, you're not far from an amazing dive opportunity. Friday, the final day, was super symbolic. We did a morning dive where we dove deep down on the reef, got to go to our deepest, as we like to say, and then in the afternoon, going up to the national park and doing the hike up to the Mount Branderis, reaching the highest point on the island and feeling like we were then at the highest. All in one day, I got to go from the lowest to the highest, wrapping up my Bonaire experience and finishing out one of the best vacations I've ever been on. I highly recommend you guys check out Bonaire if you enjoy tropical vacations, if you're into scuba diving, if you're into snorkeling, if you're into wildlife. There's something to do for everyone when you're down in Bonaire.